Hi guys, welcome to Clay with CFA. We're at Cadell Fine Arts today, and I'm Miss Amanda.
And I'm Miss Sam.
And welcome to our playground. Today on Clay with CFA, we're going to be making a pinch pot monster and turning it into a beautiful potted plant.
Hey world, I have a quick message. It's about safe driving. All right, let's go. Anytime you're driving, have the seatbelt buckled tight. Both hands on the wheel and your phone out of sight. When not in your hand trying to text somebody back. Because if you do, your car might get smacked. The moral of the story, just put your phone down. The people on the road will stay safe and sound. Put your phone down, put your phone down. People on the road will stay safe and sound. Yeah.
Every day,
millions of people are connecting
and even though we're overcoming obstacles,
watching each other's backs,
and banding together.
we should still make an effort.
We should still make an
to
effort.
get to know each other,
on a deeper level.
Father,
cosplayer,
Mentor.
Actor.
it's time we take a step forward
it's time we take a step forward.
Come together.
and discover
How accepting our differences
can make us stronger.
So before we get started, guys, we're going to make sure we wedge our clay very well. I have a small canvas covered board here so we can do it individually at the table. And just like Miss Sam showed you guys before, we're going to do the ram's head method. And we're going to push down and pull up, and push down and pull up. And we're going to do that probably about 20 or so times. We need to make sure that the clay is all the same consistency, and we want to get the air bubbles out. So once we finish getting this guy nice and smooth, we're gonna get it into this kind of square rectangle shape going on, and I'm gonna split it in half. All right, and we'll set that over to the side. Pull up my sleeves a little, and you'll notice that we're using red clay today. And when this is fired and finished, it gives off a terracotta color. So think about the potted plants that are sitting on your grandma's porch. In order to do a pinch pot, we need to start with a nice round ball shape. And in order to do that, I'm gonna toss it back and forth in my hand. And I'm giving it a little turn with my top hand and dropping it into my bottom hand, and that gets it nice and round. Think about packing a snowball together or just tossing a baseball back and forth in your room. I'm just going to use my thumb to kind of smooth out some of those spots that aren't quite flat. They're not cracks, they're just not smooth, that's all. There we go. Nice round ball. And my favorite thing to do is to remember a nursery rhyme. So little Jack Horner sat in the corner eating his Christmas pie. He stuck in his thumb and pulled out a plum and said, "Oh, what a good boy am I." So once you have your thumb in there, you don't want to push it all the way to the bottom, but you want to make sure it's down past your knuckle. And we're gonna make an alligator mouth with our fingers. So inside, my thumb is in there and my fingers touch like this all the way around, and that's a pinch. So we're gonna pinch, pinch, pinch our pots all the way around. And we don't wanna pinch it too much in one space because that will create thin walls and thick walls. We want to make sure it's even all the way around. And then I'm going to bring it up a little bit. And we'll pinch the top part of our wall. And keeping it in my hand keeps it from getting a flat spot. If we set it on the table while we're doing this, it'll have a flat side. All the way up. Just like that. Now, on my bottom here, I'm going to give him a little tap because we want to have a nice flat base down there. And that's where our feet are going to go for our little guy. And I'm just going to use my thumb to kind of smooth out the inside here. And I'm going to do the same thing on the top. And our piece of clay that we're using today is a little wet, which makes it a little sticky to work with, but that's fine. I'm just going to use a wet towel and a dry towel to wipe some of that extra clay that's stuck on my fingers. And come back and smooth them out a little bit more. And we're not using any water on here because if we did, then it would just turn into a pile of mud, and we don't want to work with a pile of mud, guys. Nice and smooth. So if we were to stop right here, we'd have a beautiful little pot that you can sit on your table and put paper clips in or throw your keys in at the end of the day. You could even make this wider, and you could make it big enough to make a bowl of cereal or some mac and cheese. But today we're going to keep him kind of small, and we're going to add arms to turn him into a little monster. So I'm going to take a couple of pieces of our clay that we sat to the side, and I'm going to make them into little round balls. There's one, and there's the other one. And we're going to roll him out into a coil. Our little log, and then we're going to roll this one. So we want them to be the same thickness. You can see that one's a little thinner, so I'm going to do this one again to thin them out a little bit more. There we go. Now they're about the same. And these are going to be arms. So we're going to decide how long they need to be. So we're going to trim those down a little. And I'm going to use a needle tool. And this guy is very pokey on the end. So we have to be careful that we don't stab ourselves with it. And I'm going to cut both sides so it's nice and flat. I'm going to do the other guy the same. Let's see. I think that is just about right. So I'm going to mark on here. Now I'm going to use my needle tool to score my pieces. Whenever you attach two pieces of clay together, it's very important that you score and slip. So I'm making some crisscross marks where it's going to touch on here. And the same thing with this piece. I'm going to do crisscross marks on this guy. And then I'm going to grab my slip. So we call this slip, and this is a mixture of vinegar, a little bit of water, and leftover bits of clay all mushed down. And in this kind of project, slip is what we use as our glue. Our glue attaches the two pieces together. We get a nice little goop on there, wipe the extra off on our towel, and add our arm. There we go. And then I'm going to take my wood tool and I'm going to blend those edges together to make sure it doesn't come apart. Blend, blend, blend. And so it doesn't look very pretty, but after you do that, you can come back with your finger and smooth it all out so it looks like one piece of clay. There we go, we've got one arm on there. And we're gonna do the same thing on the other side. We're gonna score here. And then we're gonna score the top of our arm and add our slip. There we go. I'm gonna attach, press it down, give them a little wiggle. Wiggle, wiggle. Careful not to squeeze it too hard or it's gonna start to smush. Blend, blend, blend with our wooden tool. Do, 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 do. All right, we've got that guy blended together. And then again, I'm gonna come back with my fingers and smooth it out. Very nice. All right, and then right here, where our arms don't quite reach, let's make a little heart for our monster guy to hold. So I'm gonna grab another little piece of our clay over here. And we'll make a little ball. I think that's about right. And we're just gonna use our fingers to start turning that into a heart shape. So I started with the ball and then I kind of squeezed it until it was a square. And now I'm starting to separate the top part and we're gonna pull the bottom into a point. Just gotta get that to even out a little bit. Let's see, what do we got? He's trying to be a heart. Let's try our needle tool in there and see if we can get that to come down a little bit more. There we go. Dum, dum, dum. The more you play with it and pinch it and squish it, just keep that image of what you're trying to get your clay to look like in your head. So I know what I want it to look like. And I'm gonna keep going until I get it to come out of my fingers. All right, I think that's pretty good. It's a little lopsided, but all of is. So we're gonna stick that in there just like that to make sure his arms reach. And remember, we always have to score and slip when we attach our two pieces of clay together. So that's what I'm gonna do right here. We've got kind of like a hashtag mark on there. And then we'll do the same on this guy. And then even a little bit on his hands, where his hands are gonna touch. And we're gonna attach a little bit of slip. Some here, some there. And then we're gonna grab our heart and stick it right in between the hands and pull them forward to make sure they're touching. So I'm gonna turn it this way for a second so I can see what I'm doing. There we go. Isn't that cute? Now I think he needs some legs. So just like I made his arms, I'm going to make some coils to make his legs. And we're gonna give this guy 3 legs. Mostly because it's easier to get it to stand up with 3 legs than 2, but also because it's silly. So 1, 2, 3. So that one's a little big. All right. And you want to try to get them all about the same size. If not, that's fine. We'll trim them with our needle tool again. So 1, 2, 3 little legs. And we're going to use our needle tool and trim a little bit so they're the same size. And then I'm going to take them and I'm going to tap them down a little bit on the table. Make sure it's all nice and smooth. Tap the other side. That way we make sure it's flat on the bottom and the top part of the leg. And then we've got one more. There we go. And we need to score each of these guys. You can decide which side is the top and the bottom. We're gonna kind of see how that fits on there. There we go. And I think we're gonna make this guy a flower pot. So before I attach my legs, down here in the middle, I'm going to add a little opening. And I'm using my needle tool to push through. Careful not to poke my finger. And then I'm going to use the back side of the needle tool to make sure that opening comes all the way out. And down here on the bottom, we're just going to smooth it out so we don't have any rough edges. There we go. We're going to decide where we want our legs. So 1, 2, 3. Add a little bit more glue. Some for you, some for you, some for you. Then we're going to attach our legs. We need to make sure we use our wood tool to blend, blend, blend. Because even though we have our glue on there, we have to blend our seams together. Very nice, very nice. Right. Oh, well, we already put glue on there. That's all right. We're going to add this guy. And do a little blending. We don't want to take him out of the kiln and find out his legs fell off. That wouldn't be any fun. Smooth out all those marks. And we've got one more leg to add on there. So I just want to remind you guys that this project and all kinds of other things are available for you to do here at Cadell Fine Arts. This is something that we would usually teach in our Intro to Ceramics class and also in our youth clay class. Our youth clay classes are ages 8 to 17. We do allow younger ones to come in, but a parent must be present with them during their classes. And our adult clay classes are for ages 18 to 1,012,000. So if you are interested in doing this project or anything similar to this, please give us a call at 664-4183 and let the secretary know that you're interested in our programs and she'll get you registered. So I've got all my legs attached really well. The next thing is to stand him up and even him out, just like that. And ta-da, we have a little pinch pot monster. Isn't he so cute? So we're gonna go put this on the shelf and let him dry for a little while. And after he's dried, probably for at least a day or two, we're going to pull him back out and we'll do a little sanding before he's ready to go in the kiln.
How prepared is your family if a hurricane shows up at your doorstep, or a flood, or a blizzard? You can't just turn away a natural disaster. That's why it's important to go to ready.gov/plan now. It has the tools and tips you need to make an emergency plan with your family. So if disaster comes knocking,
Let's go.
you'll be ready to help keep your family safe.
It's just a pizza.
Yes!
Make a plan today.
Need food? We can help. The Greater Cleveland Food Bank's Benefits Outreach Department works within the community to help individuals locate food and apply for SNAP and other public benefits. Weekdays, our help center accepts phone calls from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. and walk-ins from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Call 216-738-2067 or stop in our facility at 15500 South Waterloo Road. Our benefits outreach counselors are out in the community every day assisting with benefit enrollment and connecting the community to vital resources. Keep your eye out for our food truck, providing free, fresh produce and SNAP enrollment in the community. For more information, visit www.greaterclevelandfoodbank.org/gethelp.
after our little guy has sat on the shelf for a few days, we can come back and do some finishing touches. So as you can see, he's nice and solid now, and we're not getting any more squish. So I'm going to take this little file, we call this a greenware file, and I'm just gonna come through in all those places we did our blending. I'm going to make sure they're all buffed out and make sure we don't have any little nubs or anything like that on there, because after it gets fired, it's like glass and it will stay that way and it will be very sharp. So I want to make sure we smooth out the top part up here, and then down here on our heart we can come by, and if you need to, you can take your needle tool or your wood tool and get any extra little chunks off of there. That doesn't really bother me too much. And also down here where our feet are connected, make sure we don't push too hard because we could still snap them off. When your clay is this dry, it becomes very fragile. This is probably one of the most fragile states, called bone dry. So there are 3 states of clay. There's wet, there's leather hard, bone dry, and fired or bisqueware. So after it's been fired, it's solidified. All right, we got all those guys smoothed out. And I'm gonna grab a sponge, and I've already gotten it a little wet. It's damp, we don't want it soaking wet. And I'm just gonna come through and wipe off any extra bits. We want to make sure we wipe the inside so it's nice and smooth in there. I'm gonna grab my water, give my sponge a little rinse. I'm gonna come back, try to get some of that extra clay dust off because we don't want a whole lot of dust flying around in the kiln. It could get stuck to other pieces in there and cause damage, which we never want to damage a fellow artist's projects that they've spent hours and hours working on. All right, and I think she is all finished and ready to go in the kiln. All right, guys, we're back in the kiln room again. Our piece is all dry now, and we're gonna get him loaded. We're gonna fire our kiln to an 04 bisque firing. It takes about 8 hours for it to reach full temperature, and then another 24 hours for it to cool all the way down. All right, so there's our piece. It came out very nice. I don't see any cracks or damage on it. We're gonna take it up to the front and wipe it down to make sure there's no dust, and then we'll do our glazing. All right, guys, so we're gonna get ready to glaze our little pot that we've made. We are going to be using a stroke and coat in Candy Apple Red, and we're going to use a clear glaze made by Duncan. A stroke and coat is pretty similar to an underglaze, so you can use it on greenware clay or clay that has been bisque fired. It doesn't have any movement to it, so it stays where it's at. The color that you see in the jar is pretty much the color it's gonna be when it's finished, and it's gonna have a nice shiny coat when it comes out of the kiln. This glaze, even though it looks kind of a bluish green color, it's actually clear, and it makes your piece completely shiny once you've coated it. So you can use that to coat underglazes that are matte to make them shiny and have a high gloss finish, or you can just use it straight on your piece to bring out the natural colors in the clay. I also have 3 different size brushes. I'm probably going to use this smaller one to get into some of these detail areas so that we don't get it everywhere. And then the larger two brushes will be used to do the clear coating on the outside of the piece. All right, let's get started. So I'm going to start with our Candy Apple Red Stroke and Coat. And I'm going to make sure I do at least 2 nice coats of that. Being very careful not to get it all over the place because I just want that color to show up on our heart. And we want to bring out the terracotta, the red that's in our natural clay. We want to make sure that we get everything coated, and we want 2 nice even coats. So this is going to be my first coat. And here at Cadell Fine Arts, we provide tons of different colored glazes for you guys to use here. We have under glazes, gloss glazes, crystal glazes, and elements. Crystals are really fun, so maybe in another episode we'll do some crystal glazes so you can get an idea of what those look like. And the elements are very unpredictable, so you never know what you're going to get when you use those kind of colors. But one of the nice things about the stroke and coats, you know what color you're going to get. You know what it's going to look like when you're finished. So remember guys, if you're interested in making this project or any other project similar to this, please call 216-664-4183 and ask for more information about the programs that we offer here. We have ceramic classes for ages 8 to a million. Everyone is welcome to join. We have beginners ceramic hand building classes, and we have adult open studio classes, and we also have a slip casting program going on right now at Cadell Fine Arts. My favorite class again is our youth clay program, which is ages 8 to 17. We do allow younger ones in for that class, but they must be accompanied by a parent, and they must be able to follow along with the program that we're doing. We also have lots of other classes at Cadell Fine Arts for arts and crafts. We do painting. We have lots of fun things going on up here all the time. So now that I've got that all coated, we're gonna move on to our clear glaze. I'm just gonna start with my bigger brush to get some of these bigger areas done. So remember I said this glaze is like a yellow, or my goodness, not yellow. It's a bluish green color, but when it comes out crystal clear. So I'm going to use this big brush and get everything nice and coated. It's very important not to glaze with a dry brush. You never want to do dry brushing with your glaze. So as soon as I feel like my brush is starting to get dry, I dip it back in there. We want lots of movement when we're pulling. Pull that glaze across. And I'm going to get all the way up to our little red heart, and it's okay if the clear gets on there, because once it's been fired, you're not going to be able to see a difference there. Because remember, it doesn't have any color. All right, we're going to cover the back of him all the way. And remember, we're going to be using this project to plant a little succulent in. So we want to make sure we leave a space down here that doesn't have any glaze in it, and we don't want to glaze the inside of it. And that makes it better for the moisture when we're watering our plants. It kind of holds that moisture in and it doesn't sit. Glaze is pretty much waterproof. So if I glazed the entire thing, our terracotta pot wouldn't hold the water the right way for the plant. Usually when you buy pots at home, sometimes they'll have a decorative glaze on the outside, but the insides of them are usually raw or natural. And just like the stroke and coat, we want to make sure we get at least 2 good coats on there. So I'm getting my first one in, and I know it looks kind of messy, but I promise you it's not going to matter, not with this clear coat. Just want to make sure that it's even. All the way up against our red heart to make sure we don't leave any empty spaces. Come in here and make sure we get in between the arms a little bit. I'm pretty sure one of the reasons that the clear glaze has a color to it is so you can see where you've painted or where you've put your glaze at already. Because if it came out clear, then you would have no idea. And you would put coat after coat after coat after coat. That wouldn't be very good, would it? All right, I think we've about covered it up all the way. And I'm just gonna do the fronts of his little legs. It's kind of hard to do while I'm holding it, so we're gonna sit it down. And I'm not completely coating his legs. I'm leaving the insides of them kind of blank without glaze. Just so we have some place for our pot to retain moisture. We're also going to make sure that we don't put any glaze down here on his feet because we don't want it to get stuck to our kiln. So if we put a glaze down there, when it sits on the shelf in the kiln, the glaze kind of melts and it turns into a glass. And then when it melts, whoops, if there's glaze on the bottom of it, when it melts, it'll melt right to that kiln and it won't be able to come off of that kiln shelf. So now that we've got our first coat on there, we're gonna set it to the side for a little while and let it dry. Should only take a few minutes, and then we'll add a second coat. After that second coat is on, we're gonna toss them in the kiln, and when we come back, you'll see our finished project, and we'll be ready to get them potted.
The need for blood is constant, and sometimes that need becomes critical. From accident victims and cancer patients to premature babies and those with blood disorders, hospital patients rely on all of us to make sure that blood is on the shelves and ready to help. That's why the American Red Cross needs you. Make an appointment to give blood today by calling 1-800-RED-CROSS or visit redcrossblood.org. Your one blood donation can help save up to 3 lives.
So guys, our kiln has ran at a cone 06 firing at approximately 1,830 degrees. For a full firing, it takes approximately 24 hours to reach full temperature and to cool back down. I'm so excited to check out our piece. Look at how beautiful that came out. Very shiny, we don't have any mist spots, we don't have any cracking in our glazing. Let's take this back up front and get it potted. All right, guys, so now we're gonna get our little guy potted here. And I've just got a bag of regular potting soil. And we have some succulents that I've already pulled apart from another plant. And I'm gonna put probably maybe a spoonful or two of dirt in here because it's a tiny little pot. And if you guys decide to make pinch pots, they don't always have to be this tiny. You can make tiny ones, make medium ones, you can make really big pinch pots. So we just started with a tiny one today. And put a little spoon of dirt in there. And then we're gonna get our little friend. Get them all standing up where we want them at. And then we're gonna add a little bit more dirt. Of course, we have to make a mess. That's the fun part. Duh. All of our little leaves out of there. We don't want to pack it too tight because we'll squish the roots, but we want to make sure that he's got enough dirt. There we go. Just gonna clean that guy off a little bit. Ta-da! So we've got our finished little potted monster here. Remember, we started out with a chunk of red colored clay, got that wedged, and turned him into a pinch pot. After we squeezed him out into a pinch pot, we added on his legs and arms, threw him in the kiln, glazed him up, fired it again, and now this is our finished beautiful project. If you're interested in doing this project or similar ones, please reach out to us at Cadell Fine Arts at 216-664-4183. The more the merrier. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm your host, Miss Amanda. See you next time.